Good morning. It is way after 10:30 a.m. It is Sunday morning, and that means it is time for Sunday Club. This is a weekly live stream where every week we take a look at coding some Ruby on Rails, and we build or work on an app together, different aspects of that app, and kind of explore and take a look at different things. Let's dive in with some follow-up straight away. Well, let's talk about what that app does, because it's kind of relevant to the follow-up, actually. So what the app that we work on each week does is you can give it a YouTube channel ID. You can create an account, give it a YouTube channel ID, and it will build like a little mini web page listing all of your videos and let you edit the thumbnails and descriptions and things like that. And at the moment, we are trying to add Twitch to that app so that you can actually have a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel and kind of have them both on the same little mini website and explore different aspects of Ruby on Rails around those things. So let's get straight to the follow-up. Hopefully, this stream is live on Twitch this week. Last week, it was very much not, which was really frustrating. So basically, I got to the bottom of what had happened. This is follow-up for anyone that's interested. In order to begin the Twitch integration, we had to set up an app within the Twitch, like dev.twitch.tv. In order to do that, we had to turn on two-factor authentication. You can't create a Twitch app in the DevTools without having two-factor authentication on, that's great. Better security, all good. Unfortunately, apparently this is like a known thing since 2019. That then breaks your existing, I don't know if it's just Streamlabs OBS or anything like that. That breaks your existing streaming software, which is fun. So then you also can't just remove your Twitch channel from your Streamlabs account and then re-add it via the website. I had to do that via the app. And so I lost, let's say 45 minutes to an hour of my life this morning trying to figure that out. But hopefully at this exact moment, we are on both YouTube and Twitch. So apologies I know some people drop by on the chat, which I hugely appreciate each week and take a look. And also, just to let people know that if this ever isn't on Twitch, I find YouTube to be the way more reliable streamer, which is ironic considering Twitch is known for the streaming stuff. Okay, so that's a little bit of follow-up. That's fine. So hopefully that's back this week. The other thing around this today is that you might notice that I don't know how this actually shows on Twitch, but I now apparently have to enter the name of a computer game that I'm playing when I go to stream from Streamlabs OBS, which is a mandatory field. I can't not fill it in, but I'm not playing a computer game. So I typed in Rails, and I think right now this stream is listed under a computer game to do with Rails or something like that. Like, I don't know how to unlist that, and I couldn't stream without it. I Googled around and couldn't find how it's a non-mandatory field. So what may happen at some point in this stream is someone comes past expecting to see a lovely computer game of some description and sees some code on the screen and doesn't know what's going on. So those are all things that are happening. I'm going to look into that gaming issue during the week and see if we can get that resolved. But it has not been, it's not been super easy. I find Streamlabs good most of the time, and they pushed out an update, and there's just, when it goes wrong, none of the error messages told me anything useful. It was like, hey, we can't fetch your Twitch stream information. I don't know what to do with that. Like, great. Okay, well, point me in the direction. Thank you to the person who made a 90-second YouTube video 2 years ago explaining that it was to do with two-factor authentication, because I didn't find that anywhere else. Okay, so much follow-up. That was a lot. Let's take a look at what we want to do today. So, we want to look at more Twitch integration stuff, I think, because I'm still interested in this, and I think we didn't do enough of it last week. So, let's jump over to some code. Let's do that. We've got the result of our work last week. So last week we looked, for anyone that wasn't watching, we looked at lazy loading. Lazy. Well, it wasn't even lazy loaded. Like, it was using turbo frames to I guess it was lazy load, to once the page has loaded, make a request to a specific Rails controller. On that controller, check to see if the Twitch channel was live, so it actually make an API call to Twitch. If it was live, it would then bring the frame back, bring the turbo frame back with the actual player in it. So that's what's happening here. So if I refresh this page, this streamer was the stream that we looked at, and he's live now, so that's why this video appears. And if he wasn't live, we would get like not live or something like that. And all of that happened just in really simple logic. It basically, we had if stream is live, and all that did, because this was a turbo frame, it was automatically going to check, I think in the view, I think we did it in like sites show. Yep. So we had a turbo frame with a Twitch check, and then we popped the channel ID in there. We coded up the path for the controller where we were going to go and check that. Just bump this font size up a bit. And then this content will be replaced when /feed has been loaded. That was the filler content. You could put a little loading icon in there or something. It goes up to that controller, to that controller action on this at this path. And then it will replace it with the partial we just looked at. Amazing. So that was really good. And where we kind of didn't get to last week because we had issues with, hopefully we should have some like music this week. Is that happening? Yep, we've got some music playing in the background. So I've got that fixed as well. Because of the stream issues, we didn't really get a lot done. But what I wanted to look at was going a little bit further into the Twitch API. And I think we can do this in one of two ways. We can look at the kind of the persistent videos I'm interested in. I'm interested in like the clips and actually pulling those through in the same way we pull the YouTube videos through. But also the webhooks, which is I think this is this event sub part of the API docs where we can submit to this because this is the equivalent for Twitch of the behavior we already implemented for YouTube. So for YouTube, let's jump to some code and go and see what we want to do. So in YouTube, we had this service that was import channel videos, and we this is kind of rough code. I don't think we wrote any tests, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but we would basically use this gem, go and create a new YouTube channel for each of the videos in the channel, go and retrieve them, which is this one here, and then create a local representation of that video. And I'm wondering if we could do that for Twitch, and look at the domain mapping, which is what I was interested in last week and the week before. And then the other thing that we did was on YouTube, the PubSub Hubbub implementation, which I'm only just getting used to saying, was how we did the webhooks. So how did YouTube tell us that something had happened? And that wasn't I didn't find that a great developer experience. But the one for Twitch seems much better. And also, it seems like we could do things like last week we were talking about how do we know whether that stream is online or not. Well, what we did is we wrote a little controller action to go and check in our Twitch live stream thing. Like if this is just a kind of raw request, just going, this is all hard coded just quickly last week. Go and get me this user, tell me if they're live, tell me if the results body includes type live. And if so, show it. But what we could also do is be told in the background whether the stream was online or offline, and then we could populate something locally, and then we wouldn't need to make that third-party API check when the page loads. We would already know. So when that first controller action was made, we'd know whether to show that video. And again, that would be something like a performance gain, where you're like, well, if that API is slow, we might lose half a second or something like that. Whereas if you've been told via webhook that it went live 10 minutes ago, you don't even need to make the request. You just pass it straight to the viewer and say, yep, we think it's live. So I think that's interesting. So let's start with the importing of content, because I'm interested in where the domain mismatch comes in and where, how how we can deal with that. So let's go and look at the. I think there was like just the API reference is what we were looking for, I think. And we want Twitch API reference. Okay, so we had on the stream a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think, there was someone in the chat who was who used Twitch regularly, which is really useful and helped us kind of help me really specifically because I do kind of use Twitch very, very casually, but I just go on, watch the thing that I've been linked to or whatever, read the chat on the screen and then kind of leave. So even for these streams, Twitch is just something that comes as part of using Streamlabs OBS. So what I thought we could do, so let's do get clips. Yep, so we don't need an app access token. Right, okay, so this is great. So let's try this one. So I've totally just zoomed in and lost my my place there. Hang on. Reference get clips. Okay, get clips. Get clips information by clip ID, broadcaster ID. Okay, so let's go and get Postman again back over here. So this, if you remember from the last couple of streams, we were using Postman, which is a visual editor for making HTTP requests. So you get like a cool little editor for the parameters, for the headers. There's like handy built-in little tools for auth. I'm just going to top my coffee up. And loads of cool stuff that you can do via the command line or via other tools, but Postman just gives you a nice user interface for it. And as I mentioned before, it gives you these little tools on the side where you can actually make little collections for yourself if you're regularly working with the same APIs. It's like got a cool little library stuff to help you save time. And if you're working with teams, it has like environment variables and things like that that can be loaded from a team. I think it's fancy. I don't use any of those features, but I enjoy the ones that I do use. So this was /helix/users. Let's get the thing up on this screen. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to be back this week because last week did not go great. There was no music, no Twitch. Just really frustrating when things don't work. So /helix/clips. Okay, so let's make a new. Let's duplicate this tab. More tabs. That's always what we need. So then we can do /clips. And so this is the random broadcaster we grabbed from the homepage last week, but I think they're live now. Let's say right, and so that's not his broadcaster ID. So where I had got to last week was we have a user ID, a broadcaster ID, and a login, and those three are all unique bits of information. Yes, okay, so broadcaster type. So how can we get his... So let's try, is that a broadcaster ID? Nope. Right, okay, so ID here, let's try this one. So these are all the requests we ran last week. No, okay. Broadcaster ID here, right, okay, great. But in order to do this, we already knew the broadcaster ID. How did we find the broadcaster ID? And I think this was someone kindly posting it in chat. This is 2 weeks ago, so my memory is not amazing around this. So let's go Google this. So this is what I was finding confusing before. So Twitch get broadcaster ID, Twitch API get broadcaster ID. It says broadcast ID, not broadcaster. That's, yeah, I really help if I spelled it correctly. That's actually gonna hamper me a little bit. Okay, so get broadcaster ID. I don't know how to use the new Helix Twitch API. Right, that seems relevant to me. I don't know how to use it either. You can't send the client ID as a query. That's okay. So that's the stuff we've already done. Looking for the bit where broadcast. Yeah. So here's someone who's written, let broadcaster ID equals this number, and then in comments, is it the user ID? That's exactly what I'm asking. These are all okay. This is when was this? This is from earlier last year. Okay. These are all the questions that I've had just been going through. Is this question mark? This kind of goes back to what we were talking about when we did the pub sub hubbub thing, using the YouTube API as well. Like the design of the API is the developer experience, like the consumer developer experience. Like if your mental model of it clicks or doesn't click, if it's something you've used before, things like that, you're just going to have a really different experience of using it than another developer. Why are you performing a switch when the user ID and broadcaster? Okay. User ID and broadcaster ID are the same ID. Okay. I'm just reading random stuff off Google to get this done. So we think that this random Twitch person here, 1887, we go and get users and we get their login, and their ID is this. But in order to get their clips, I should provide at least one of clip ID, a game ID, or a broadcaster ID. Oh, is it because we're passing it as login? Oh, okay, wait. Am I passing the wrong? I'm passing it as the wrong thing. Sorry. I made the new tab and swapped the URL, but not the name of the parameter that was being passed. Great. Okay, cool. So now we have clips. Great. And these are not clips from... I'm actually slightly nervous that this streamer has like I don't know who they are or what any of this content is, or anything might appear on the screen right now, which is not ideal. I don't have any clips, so I can't really use mine. Right, so are all of the clips of this channel of this broadcaster from this broadcaster? Or are they or are they just clips that they've added to their account? So what I'm asking here. So this person here has created a clip, which we can embed, but is that clip from this broadcaster, or is it from any other broadcaster? And this broadcaster has just said, "Hey, that's cool. I want to add that to my channel so that other people can look at it." So like, it might just be like a, I don't know, Pinterest board or a YouTube watch list or something like that, where you can grab anything from anywhere and just chuck it in. And does that matter? Because if we're just importing them, so we ask the user in the Sunday Club app, we ask them when they're creating their, so let's open up another tab here. So we say, what's your channel called? Well, we want it to be called Sunday Club. And they say, great, what's the ID of your YouTube channel? And what we can also say is, what's your Twitch channel login or whatever. And we would then have that. We would then go off to this. well, we could get the login, call this, then we could use that to call this, which would get the clips, and then import those clips into the channel as videos, what we would call videos, and then show those. Is that a reasonable thing to do? So the questions around that are the clips persistent, i.e. like a YouTube video, if they could get deleted, but are they just like ephemeral anyway? Do they only last for a few weeks or something? Whereas a YouTube video has to be actively deleted. It'll just persist until someone actively says, delete this. So how far back does this go? Like, where's created at? 2021 the first, 2020 11. Okay, so they're a while. And there's pagination here, so we could so we can presumably make another request to that, but pass it that cursor. Let's find those docs. You pass it as a assuming. Okay, I just want to search pagination. These are all of the. These are all included in the responses. I just want to check. How are we actually going to get this? I'm assuming we just pass that cursor through Twitch API pagination. Send it as the after parameter. Okay, cool. So in Postman, we can then add it as a param after, oops. Pass a token, or cursor, sorry. Send. Great, so then we're back in 2020. Okay, so these seem pretty persistent. Just move this up a little bit. 2021. So these aren't ordered by. Am I just getting the same ones every time? Am I just not paying attention? Okay, so let's find this word. Go down to the bottom. Swap this out. Okay, now we are getting a different set every time. Okay, cool. I don't know if these are in any order, but there are some from, I think November 2020 is the last ones I can see, but maybe that's just because we haven't gone back far enough or something. Okay. Okay, let's build a little importer for that, and let's see if we can get these in. So what I'm interested here, and not to any specific end, it is more discussing the idea of discussing, but like when you're initially planning an application, your domain modeling is so you just don't you only know what you know. And so like I knew nothing about Twitch, and so in reality what you would do is do as much research and prep as you have time and resource for, to make sure that you think you're heading off anything. Like the idea of ephemeral videos or something like that, like how would you deal with that in your application? So what have we got to map to these clips, and what do we want to do about that? Like these are the kind of questions that I think are useful to ask when you come to a situation like this. So ours, we have an organization which has many sites, and a site has many channels, and a channel has many videos. And those are that's the associations and the domain model that we've set. Now, these are really basic because obviously you can go back and watch the streams. We just kind of did enough to get us up and running at the time. But let's say we have has many videos on a channel at the moment. And then what happens on a channel, I think we looked at this last week maybe, is that we have this field called YouTube channel ID. So we don't actually know whether a channel is a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel. I don't know if we care at this point either. So we've got a bunch of options available to us. We could, you could do anything. You could make a different type of model for each one. You could have a YouTube channel model. You could then have Twitch channel. I think we discussed all this when we did this, but I'm just kind of going back over it for my own memory. You could also have things where you had a YouTube channel that inherited from a channel model, something like that. You could do it the way that we've got it, keep it all as channel and have properties on that channel that just tell you, you could have like channel.new. Well, we've got YouTube channel ID, something like that. YouTube channel ID. And then you could then have a method that checked if that was populated. You could have something that was like, you probably don't want to do this, but like, is YouTube channel, something like that. Like that. The other option that pops to mind is that new thing in Rails, which is like, is it delegated types? Delegated types, which is basically so. So I haven't read this, but this is making key architectural decisions is like getting a bad tattoo lasered off. It takes time, it's expensive, and your bad decision will never truly fade into oblivion. So yeah, I mean that's what kind of what I'm talking about here. And there's this thing in Rails called delegated types, which is where you can use I think it uses multiple tables under the, oh God, I can't actually remember how this works. So it I can't remember if you get one, you either get one table, which is like using single table inheritance for it, or you'll have to read the docs, but like this is something that I wanted to talk about. Like I think could potentially be a candidate here where you would have like a channels table, and then I think you then have other subtables that only have the different fields. So you have one that has all of the basic stuff, and then you have other tables. Oh, I might be getting that wrong. Hang on. Called delegate type. We have to read the PR really quickly now, because I think this is, if you haven't seen this, like I was really interested, I haven't used this, but I've been interested in it. So here's an example where you've got entry as the, like for us, that would be channel. And then you've got message, that could be YouTube channel. Comment could be Twitch channel. With this approach, the superclasses of Concrete Cart represented by its own table. So yep, so you have a table, a database table for channel, where all the, I'm going to chat. Yeah, for morning, Finian, or good evening, Finian, as it is. Finian, have you used delegated types yet? You're cooler than I am, and thus have probably used cool new features. I only get to things about a year after anyone else has used them. So you get a table for that where all the subclasses attributes are shared amongst it. Then each of the Then each of the subclasses have their own individual tables for additional attributes that are particular to their implementation. This is similar to what's called multi-table inheritance in Django, but instead of actual inheritance, this approach uses delegation to form the hierarchy and share responsibilities. Okay, so as with everything that they kind of then build into Rails, I would imagine there are some interesting edge cases around that your app might bump into. But what it lets you do is you can create a new record that uses delegated typing by creating the delegator and delegatee at the same time. So entry.create message, comment.new, create a current.user. If you need a more complicated composition or you need to perform dependent validation, you should build a factory method or class to take care of the complicated needs. This is going to be as simple as stuff.create with comment, create message, comment new, create. Okay. Adding further delegation. The delegated type, so that's the I learned something the other day, but ended up with STI. This is in the chat for anyone, but ended up with STI. Really keen to try it for something though. Feels like it definitely plugs a gap. Yes, I agree with that. This could be a good use for it, really. But is it? Because the notion of the entry, message, and comment is that you're confident at the point that entry, when you design the system, you're confident that entry is a valid representation of the shared properties that message and comment have. In our instance, a clip is on Twitch might not be the same as a video on YouTube. So the domain behavior of the third-party domain forces us to rethink how, like, what our application. If it was just a user entering stuff and this was just for our decisions, that gets a lot easier, because then even if we do get it wrong, we're aware of the behavior we're putting in. So let's say that you put in entry, message, and comment as your three classes to begin with, and then gradually comments end up way more complicated because they need to do cool social media features of people commenting with replies and reactions and all those kind of things. You might think, okay, well, that's fine, that hasn't worked. So all you then need to do is recreate your comments in their own table, because you can move everything out of entry, and essentially comment doesn't need to change because it doesn't know anything about it thinks it's its own model. So if you just move it to its own table, I can't imagine that to be too complicated. If, however, the behavior of message and comment is affected by the behavior of a third-party system, the third-party system behavior could change, and suddenly you're like, okay, now we do need to make that change, but maybe it's desirable that we want to keep them the same, and there's only some of the third-party behavior that's different. Like, I think that's really interesting, and something that really is experience driven and that's the work, right? Like, that's you kind of work out as you go what works and what doesn't. Where you really can get screwed over in the loveliest possible way is like when a fundamental part of the third party domain mapping that you were pretty confident was going to be persistent changes. And an example of that for me was the Stripe and other payment APIs around the SCA and PSD2 compliance stuff. What had been a fairly straightforward domain mapping changed, and they were like, well, we're just going to change the models that you have to interact with on our end, and this is essentially non-optional. Over a period of time, you have to move to this new model. And then you're like, I'm going back to basics. Am I going to try and map their new domain models onto my current one? Am I going to try and move the way I'm doing it to the new one and switch over? How do we import the data over? And so you're forced to ask really fundamental questions mid-work. You're like, hey, I'm just trying to implement a new feature. And the third party is like, nah. And that's just the risk of using third parties for things. I mean, payment is probably a bit different. You can't get around that. But Twitch is, do you need to map your model to model your system on the third party? Like, that's a good question to ask up front. Or can we just totally disassociate? Maybe the importer cares. So if we're going to go and write the equivalent of our little importer here, so maybe this cares what the third party mapping is, but we just do so much transforming of the data on the way through that it doesn't matter what actually happens to it later, or we handle that elsewhere and we don't worry about trying to map them one-to-one. And I think that's also an experience-driven thing. When you've been burned a few times, you're like, I'm not going to try and match the third-party system. We're just going to go and do our own thing, and only at the point where we interface with the third-party system, that's where we'll place all of the transforming of the mapping of the two, and then if they change, we will react to it there. But we won't try and do anything where we're pulling things through. So I'm hoping that's vaguely the experience of others. So Phineas, I agree with you. The domain model would likely end up being provider agnostic, or that would be my goal, which you mean you want just one model. Yeah, so being provider agnostic is where you want to end up. But so let's say here, ending up with maybe just channel. So Phineas put that you'd want to end up with just one model. So channel is, video is a good example. These would go on video. So video here, we mean YouTube video or persistent video. So we could import our clips as videos and do something to indicate that they're clips. Let's do something rather than just blathering on for hours on end. So let's do another one of these. And if you want to go back and hear me complain about 15 different ways of describing service objects that every app seems to use them differently and have different thoughts about them, you can do that by going to another stream previously. If you search for service object, I'm sure it's in the YouTube thing. So let's just do import Twitch clips. And we did. Okay, well I didn't see it. So I didn't even know that I'd put in a subfolder for the actual name of each individual service. Okay, every different every time. It's like just a fun journey of discovery every time you go to write a service. So YouTube service. This would be Twitch service, and we're going to import Twitch clips, which of course is redundant. If it's in the Twitch service, you don't need to write import Twitch clips. So again, naming, we could just call that import clips. No, I just meant to rename it. Just do that instead. So import clips. Now, last time we had a gem, which made everything a bajillion times easier. Okay. Right, let's do the import now, and let's talk about not having a gem while we do it, because I think we're going to be here for about 14 hours if we try and do all of the going and getting of the tokens and all that stuff. But we can talk about what we would do. Yeah, let's... Okay, so... Sorry, I'm thinking this through. So I'll initialize here. So in this one, we imported the channel, and the channel. Oh, so we've got this service response object. Okay, fine. Okay, so we'll do. Well, let's just do that again for now. And the reason we did that is because the channel had the. What did it have that we needed? It had the YouTube channel ID, and It was the thing with which we wanted to associate the videos. So that was I guess why we passed that in. I guess we just did it because it was, we were just doing it. So did I just use that call thing? Yeah, okay. So the idea here would be called, which always just gives you a single, this approach to service objects where you always have this like single method that you call. Again, loads of service objects don't do that. So just find any random Rails developer on the web and you could probably argue for several hours. Well, not argue, but just discuss for several hours the pros and cons of that. But the other one does it, so we'll just stick with it for now. Now this, so okay, so let's do what we did before here and say right, okay, so we'll have this thing called import clips. I have a private method called import clips, which is going to do the work. I'm going to call that there. Now this hasn't got the advantage of this one had. So here what we did, YT is a third-party gem, and the mapping of the, that's another really good point about the domain mapping. It's not just you versus the third-party service. It's you, then potential gems that you use, then the third-party service. That's always a fun one as well, because here we're using a YouTube gem, which has a model representing a channel. Now, if we start to integrate with that gem more and more, then either the gem or the mod or the third-party service changes the way that we think something should work. You've got three things: your code, the gem code, and the third-party service code, all of which you have to consider. And so again, as Finian mentioned earlier, being provider agnostic, maybe you're using a gem that's just called video importer gem rather than a YouTube gem. Okay, well, are they doing the work to map to how each individual service works? What happens if you want to work with a service that's not in that gem? All of those questions. This one's YouTube, but YouTube suddenly breaks channels out into, channel lists or something like that. And again, how does the gem's behavior might be different to yours? So that's just another thing to bear in mind, which didn't cross my mind before. So here we have a gem, YT, and we have this thing for channel. We couldn't find a first-party Twitch gem when we looked. There were a couple of third-party ones, but they didn't seem super up to date. And I was like, oh well, let's just do it ourselves. Now, what that means is, let's say that we're going to write some pseudocode to get us through this. What we might do is have Twitch. API. We might do that. And we might write that ourselves. So we could just, we could do whatever we wanted if it's doing it ourselves. And then we can then define how we store the things that this channel needs to access the Twitch API and use those within our own wrapper. So what do I mean by that? We need, in order to go and get this information in Postman, we need the client ID of our application, and we need the token that we got from OAuth, and those need to be, the token actually needs to be refreshed. So what we would do is handle that before you get into the import clip service. So we don't want our individual service that does the import clips to have to worry about any of that stuff. What we would want to do is just say, well, here we are. I don't know. So this could be like client. Well, we don't even need that. We're just going to do it right here, and then get clips, I guess. And we would pass in broadcaster ID, and that would be something like @channel.twitch broadcaster ID. And user ID and broadcaster ID are the same, so maybe that would just be Twitch user ID. So I haven't, I'm just making, this is like pseudocode. We don't actually have this. There's no, and then we don't have a gem for that. And so therefore we don't have a client, and then therefore there isn't a method here, but this, just like imagining what this would be like. So we don't expect this service to have to care about the fact that we need the client ID or that the token needs to be up to date. That's not this thing's responsibility, which means that when we go and build the API client, that all has to be handled there or somewhere else. Like it doesn't, like it just needs to have been taken care of. So for example, you could have to pass this something like a config or an auth, and that could be auth thing. And then that auth thing could be Twitch auth.new channel. I don't know. Well, you could. This is your API. You can make it up. But like this thing here could then be responsible for having to do that authentication if it needed it or whatever, or you know, going to get and refreshing the token or something like that. And then all that the API needs to know is that it can consume it, or you can abstract that away and when the API makes a requests, maybe it automatically goes to check that it's valid. So hopefully this is useful if you're if you haven't used third-party services that don't come with a gem. So let's go and take a look at what this might actually look like. And I'm gonna. I actually had several conversations in the last couple of weeks about where stuff like this actually lives. I'm not going to carry on with that right now because let's just get this done. So I think in lib, if we do this, will this get us? I can't remember how the new auto loader thingy works. Will this work? And let's just say, let's just put something out here and say, I am, let me just tell it where it is. So if we exit out of this, yeah, so like where do these things live? Because you could make your own gem and load it in. So that's an option as well. So Twitch. No, okay. Do we have to load that explicitly in config application? Just gonna Google this real quick. Rails load from lib. No, lib files. Oh, do I have to require it? I thought lib is auto loaded. And so you could say, well, why not just pop it into models? And the idea is that it's like, do you treat these third-party ones differently? So equaload pass, but I thought that had all gone away. So that's from 2013. Yeah, I'm not sure we would have to do that anymore. Load. Ruby on Rails expects a certain name, so lib services my service services my service services my service, not you. So did I? Oh, I didn't put a typo in there, did I? That would be annoying. Twitch API. Oh, no, because that is automatically the module. Right. Okay. So please note that depending on your Ruby on Rails version, you might need to add the lib folder to list of folders. Oh, see, I thought that had gone. Let's add that in and see. Actually, well, it says there's a link to some docs there. Let's go and see if it has actually gone away. Autoload paths are called root directories in Zotework, but we'll stay with autoload path. So app is there, everything in there. Autoload paths. Okay. Okay, let's put that in. Again, I actually don't know if that's a good idea. There's that has totally not worked. Searching for it. Okay, so okay, so maybe we don't put that in and we do require it in the file. So in our thing here, we could do require. Like that. Just before we make it required to load it. So can I do that from the console? Kind of interested in this. Like this is not something I do every day, so maybe it's an automatic choice, but it does not belong to it, but belongs to sometimes I do Spring being running. Is Spring running? Oh, okay. God, it's so weird that this has popped up. This exact thing popped up earlier in my week as well. So Spring status, I think you can do. Spring is running. Oh my God, I didn't even know I was using that. It's just because I'm using all the defaults. So wait, if I then start the console, will that restart Spring? Okay, none of that is then working. But do I need to, so if I exit out of that. Yeah, it's now still running. If I add it back in here, then stop Spring. Spring is not running. Then do this. Yeah, I've just swapped that back in. So wait, that's working? Oh. Is it my stupid... Is it this? Hang on a second. I think it might be the spelling. Caps API, yeah. Cool, okay. I am Twitch API, great. Okay, yeah. So, sorry, totally. Weirdly, I've actually, oh God. I've actually been burned by that and had to change these when I did a Rails upgrade and went and swapped a bunch because they that if you have changed that I think is a change in the move to Zeitwerk. I think the old autoloader I think used to support that, and then Zeitwerk is more specific because I had to do some work at some point to change those, and it was just changing them to lowercase. Wow, okay. So I don't think we really need that. Oh, well, maybe we could... Oh, so hang on, maybe you don't need to load this every time. And you could only load it when, because then you only need to... So let's exit. Sorry, I'm going back around in the circle again. Let's keep going. So can I load this without it being there? This should fail? No, it works. Wait, do I have to stop? Hang on. I know I'm wasting minutes on this, but I think just to hold this in my head. So the Spring is running and presumably has cached the crap out of everything. Stop that. We've taken it out of application RB. Load the console again. Does twitch.api fail? Twitch : API. Yes. Okay, so can we then do... No. But can we do that? No. So it does require... middleware. Foo. Okay. So can I do require libTwitch API? No. Okay. Because presumably, if I didn't want to, I could just do this. If I didn't want to import everything in lib in case there was stuff in there that I wanted to load specifically. Does that work? No. Interesting. Okay. I don't really want to dwell anymore on that, but let's spring stop. MRC. So this is the one that did work. So now if I have broken it, then this should be broken. Nope. Great. Okay, cool. So in here, we now have like our, essentially like, we can kind of almost treat this as a gem. Like I said, like you could write this as a gem and import it yourself. So you're saying, I'm gonna handle everything around this, and you're calling it, you're kind of calling it in the same way as a gem as well. You're kind of saying, so this will now work, and you'll get a new instance of your own client. So that's super cool. So let's bring those beside each other. Can hide this. So you can see that that would bring back an instance of this. So in order to get clips, broadcaster ID. And so this code, well, this would fail because we don't have Twitch user ID. But this code is now, we're now building the API here in our lib Twitch API RB that we had kind of designed and mapped out over here. So this would now sort of work, only this field doesn't exist, but we could add that in. And we can define here what we want this to return. Now, this is where you can do some more domain mapping stuff. So if you remember when we looked at the YouTube one, we had, it brings back this YouTube video object. It actually brings something back that we can map over. So this can do the same thing. So you could bring back here, we could say, let's do some pseudocode. So we could say, go to Twitch API, for whatever it was, something clips / helix / clips. Could do that. And what does that return? That returns a JSON object with a root thing of data. And we could say, what's within data? Just a big array. So we could say return array within data key. And that'd be super basic. But the problem that we have is that this A has pagination, and B, we also need to do all of the stuff. So when we do go to Twitch API, we're missing the steps here, which is like check we have valid access token, which is what it was called, for API. Like, that's all we need. We just need the token. Check we have client ID, set up, and then in here we would then need to do if not valid, refresh access token. And if it is valid, we can just move on. If not, if we don't have a valid client ID, we'd probably raise or something like that, because the client ID is fixed, because it would be our client ID, I think. Because remember, we're only using our app key here. We don't need to have a corresponding key because we're not doing anything on behalf of the user. So we only need our single app key. We're not saying that we need our app key and an OAuth key that represents the auth that the user has given us. We don't need that yet in these. So then we would do set up connection to have correct headers. And only then can we go to the API. Like that, all of that work has to be done before we can do this part. And how do we know that? Because that's what we're doing in our in Postman. Like, and we've been doing this manually for now. So that's why when you're planning your third-party API integration, you have to think through all the steps that you need to do manually, and then recreate them in the code. And what the gem abstracts away from us on the when the third-party gem was used. So this YouTube channel is basically performing similar tasks, we assume, but what we had was this config where I think it was called like YT, wasn't it? Yeah. So we had this initializer which has this API key. So let's go and compare the code that we're pseudo coding out here to the code in the YT gem. And third-party gems, or gems for third-party applications, are a really good way, I think we mentioned this in previous ones, for how do you set yours up? So there's no fixed way that you have to perform these tasks. The ones we have just pseudo coded out. So check we have a valid access token for the API. If it's not valid, we have to refresh the access token. Check we have the client ID. And if we were performing actions on behalf of the user, we would have to do that again for the key that they had given us to act on their behalf. And so let's go to our gem. So in here, let's see what's happening here. Version, constants, geography. Let's see what's in here. So I've got config stuff. Cool. Great. Okay, so let's see what this is. So the initializes a request object. So if you think about what's happening here, this is within the gem itself, they are setting up this request object. So initializes a request object, then all the stuff that can be handed to it. So get, blah, 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 all of that stuff. And I'm going to assume that that is what we actually call when we call like YouTube channel.videos or whatever it is. That we actually call that make request, and it sets everything up under the hood. And if you look at what's actually happening here, is we've got set request headers. So look at this. So look at this code. So set request headers. So where does that get called within request? That's just setting a bunch of stuff from here. That's just the init for it, and then. Oh, sorry. So the request is just the class, not the method on it. Okay, so we set a bunch of stuff up in here. When we run it, just trying to see where it goes through these. So send HTTP request. Line 109. So here we go. Great. So this is right. So you can. I'm following this along, so you can see that it's basically saying right. Where's pass? Response. Let's just bring it back. So what does it actually call to make request? I guess we'd have to check that, but I'm assuming it calls. Sends the request and returns the response. So if it matches expectations, which I'm guessing is just a set of checks. 162 is where it actually does, right. So, okay, why am I talking about this rather than writing code? What I'm saying is look at the amount of work that's happening here to do what we've just been discussing. So we have request, and this is in the YouTube gem, but we're writing something really similar. So this is why it's useful to look at. So they've got this request object. You can pass a bunch of crap to it, and then it has this run method. It then checks a bunch of stuff. Great. It then has response .tap, which is going to act on the thing it brings back. So we care about response. That takes us down to 162 down here, and response either brings you back the memoized response or actually sends the HTTP request. That then builds out what we've just been discussing, which is go and build this. So this is what we're doing last week where we built the net HTTP. So where is that? That's in the Twitch live streams controller. So this is us last week doing the same thing. I'm trying to tie to this together without us having to dive in and build it all out, because I don't really think we're going to have time because we're already well over an hour in. But I'm trying to point that like this is really doable, and you just have to kind of go through the motions of like, okay, well I need this, and then I need this, and then we hard coded this out last week, but this is basically what that YouTube gem is doing. It's getting I mean, you can see it here, like get the URI. Great, here's the URI. Cool. Well, it wouldn't be hard coded. You generate it somehow. This one's generating it by having it passed into the request object, I guess. Yep, it generates it from all the stuff that's been passed in. Cool. Okay, so then you are like, okay, well, we want to get the response. So we need to go and make the HTTP request. Great, do that here. Here's all the URI stuff being passed in. Great. And then we need to make our request. So HTTP request. We'd already built ours up here, and we had hard-coded authorization and client ID. Here, this is just a method on line 109. Right, okay, so we are going to make the request. It's going to do all this. Make the get, post, whatever it is, method. And this is just genericized. So you might know that you're always going to call I don't know, get to go and get this information about clips or something. But what this is saying is like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like you're going to need to make all different types of requests. So I'll just allow you to pass in the type of request when we initialize this request object. Then in here, it's saying set request body and set request headers. So let's look at the headers because that's what we're doing here. And that's 141. So it looks at the request format, JSON or a file. And then we are saying change the content. I don't know what these do for YouTube. Looking at how to grab the thing coming back, whether it's content length 0 unless body. Okay, whatever. But the one that is interesting then is the authorization, and then that is bearer, and then it's looking for auth.access token if auth. So you're like, okay, well, what is auth? I have a suspicion that auth is probably passed in as one of the options in initialize. So if you remember, that's something that we just talked about doing over here when I was like, oh, you could actually pass the auth in here, especially if, and I think we called it auth thing, and then you could have an auth thing. So like, you could also, if you didn't need that, just have the API take care of it. So we don't need on ours a client, the actual user to have given us any information. So we probably don't need to pass that in. We could just work it out because we already have client token as a environment variable, for example, and maybe we have access token stored just on on a global config or something like that, like on a just somewhere we know we can swap it out. But this is already creating an auth option here. So like I'm just drawing comparisons to what we're pseudocoding out. Then it sets the headers. And then it's still, I think 109 was make request. Set request body, what's that doing? Well, we already know what ours would be because our API is already defining that. So we're defining that here. We already know the what we're going to pass to it, the kind of payload we're going to pass over, which is all good. And then we make the request and pass the response. Now, this is also something where last week we had the reason that we ended up with this code here is because it just comes back as a string, and I was just like, oh, screw it. Like, but we'll just search for that whether that string includes it, because all we were trying to find was that little bit of it. But what you could use is a different HTTP library that had done like parsed the response body and maybe turned it into a Ruby hash or something like that. So again, that's another choice that you could make. You could do that in the API code, and then you could just pass back the hash that the HTTP library brings you back, maybe, or maybe you want to tidy it up or something like that. So I'm just running through loads of options for doing the Twitch integration, and that the reason I'm doing that is because this is all going to take a bunch of time, and we were able to do the YouTube one so quickly because the gem abstracted all of this away from us, and we were able to just be like, hey, I just want to store these videos. So let's not do any of that work. Let's lie and say that we have already done that work, and let's lie in the same way that we lied previously. Yeah, let's completely lie in the same way we had previously. But now we know that we're lying in, like, we know what we could swap it out with, right? So, and we can just do this as well. Yeah, okay. So now we, yeah, we're gonna write some really rough code here, but we're just gonna try and prove our point. So here, we now know that we've got broadcaster ID. And it's not /streams, it's /clips. And it's still broadcaster ID. And again, this is the code that we're going to call from our importer. It's going to set up a new HTTP request. Is that a get request? Can't remember what we were doing. Yes. Okay, cool. So again, that's something where we're just hard coding get here, but we looked at the YouTube gem, and what you could do is pass that in as part of the request, or you could have a method here called def get, or something like that, and then you could do your own work around that, and then here that would just be then like get, and it would have done all the work. You could wrap a bunch of stuff in there if you needed to. Cool. Okay, so and that's to genericize it, just to clarify why you would move that out to another method. So then you're likely to not just have get clips, you're probably going to have like get other stuff, get this, get that. And so having a single get method makes your own life easier. You don't want to do this every time. And maybe your auth is always the same. In fact, let's would it be, yeah, okay, so let's do that now. And all we might want to do is I don't know, pass it the URI. Again, not trying to really design this or make a good API or anything. We're just trying to get this point across. So then this just becomes get URI. Yeah. And here we can then we can hard code these, but this we know what we're trying to do. So let's move our pseudocode up into our new method. Again, you wouldn't because you didn't want to do the same thing for a post, so you would do something like have a method called like check credentials, and then that would go and do that stuff, and you could then do like if credentials good, do this. If not, do bad, or whatever. So let's do this. So that's our token. This is our client ID. And I can just pass that back. Okay, cool. So here, set up a connection to have the correct headers. That's all gone up to here. Go to Twitch API. So that's now all we're doing here. Return array within the data key. So what do we got? Yeah, just gone through that really quickly. No idea if any of that's correct. Let's will this work? Doubt it, because it's in lib. Let's see what will happen. .new. So we've got a broadcaster ID. And just .get. No, not .get. .get clips broadcaster ID. And it's this one still. Sorry, bear with me. And that can go in there. What does this do? Something. Something happened. Response to body. Great. Okay. Huge blob of stuff coming back. Okay, now, so hopefully what you're seeing there is that we could, like, we don't want to hard code any of this stuff. Like, hopefully you're thinking I can abstract all of that away, and then I'll perform these tasks in little methods. And again, you might have, if you look at how that gem is divided up, you actually have a request class. So we might have a Twitch API. So we might do the same thing where we then have Twitch request or something like that. It could be like, that could be Twitch. We could rename the folder as Twitch API, and then we could have a request, and then we could have, this would become like clip retriever, or whatever it is. Like, look at how some of the gems you use structure this stuff, and think about why they're doing it that way. I guess is really helpful. Like, like making the request generic, and then all the docs here are kind of explaining why, and all the pull requests that they've made to generate this. So you could start a gem that was doing it this way, like the way we're doing. I mean, you could start it with all of the values as environment variables to start with. Like, I mean, not the one you need to refresh, obviously, but like the client ID or something like that. And then gradually, as you add another method, genericize it out. So you don't have to go to the whole, like a gem will have, especially one that's widely used and supports an entire API, it'll have loads of stuff that you may or may not need, because they're trying to handle, there might be like error handling for a really specific use case, maybe an edge case that only happens on one API endpoint, like maybe the slash, I don't know, YouTube slash something has completely different behaviors. So even though it's genericized, like maybe, I don't know, maybe the retry time for the upload endpoints are set differently to the ones that for retrieve, because uploading a video is just so different to retrieving an API request. So maybe there's stuff like that. And I don't know, I'm making this up, but that's why you don't want to copy it wholesale. You just want to look at those gems and say, I wonder why they're doing it that way. Go and take a look and work out what you need for yours. So we've got our request back. And so what we have is, so this is, so we've got a big string here. This is actually, if we were to use the HTTP party gem, what do we get back? Because I was like, I don't want to do the work. Puts response to body. Okay, so make blah, 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 that get, okay. What is response.body like by default, or is there... Just because I've never really bothered to look at the... do I care enough, or can I just... Do I just pass that string? I guess I'm asking HTTP party response to, yeah, response to hash, I guess. So parse response. And what is it doing to parse that response? Can you just call net HTTP parse response as hash? Okay, so I can just do JSON.parse on it. So if we do that, let's see what we get there. That doesn't really help me. But I've got a data thing, so then I can do parsed response. is what I want to return, and then I can just... Oh, no, it would be like this, wouldn't it? But if but that's still not parsed as a hash. I've still only got... Yeah, so I'm presuming I can't do that, which I guess is fine for now. Oh no, I can. I get 1, 2. I can do that. Okay, cool. So that's all good. So now I have a hash as a parse response. And what do I actually... Yeah, is a hash already? Yeah, sorry, that was totally me. Why did I not work last week? I think last week I was trying to do... I think I did it the wrong way around. I don't think I was trying to parse it as JSON. I think I was doing like .body like to JSON, which didn't work. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. So now we have the thing that we want to that we're providing back to our import service, and this is the thing that then does what the YouTube one does. So what does the YouTube one do? It remove all that crap. It takes the thing it gets back from the gem, which is the API. It then loops over it. So here we can then do, we can then say like clips equals, I don't know, like clips. We can then do clips dot, yeah, let's, what did the data key could go, because we haven't done, the other thing we've missed out here is pagination, but let's skip that for now. So data brings, so we can just, so we only need an array, so we can actually we can just take the data out here, because we know that's always going to be the root key. So we can say, well, we'll always return that. So now we have an array here, so we can do clips.each, do clip. And again, what we could do is have a clip model and change this here in the API. So we could pass back something like a Twitch clip. We could define that ourselves in our API. We could do new, and then we could here create an array of them. So here we've got this parse response, and we could do this here. I could say response is an empty array, but for the parsed response, for each one of those, I'm not going to do this because we don't have the, well, maybe each do, we'll have clip, and then we'll do twitch.clip new, and then it would be like clip. And then this would know to receive a bunch of stuff, or it could receive each individual property. So it would be like new, I don't know, URL, and then it would be like clip URL. I don't know what's in there. But like, so then they all get added to response. Choose little shovel operator in there, and then we could return response. Now, what are we doing here? We're returning an array of Twitch clips instead of returning an array of JSON stuff. Like, instead of returning, well, it's not JSON at this point, it's a hash, but it's an array of stuff that we've got back as JSON from that API endpoint. What's the difference? Well, one is a readable API that this service can consume. The other one is a hash that it doesn't have any rules. Like, we can suddenly define rules on, well, no, it doesn't have any rules, but we can, when we're defining a new Twitch clip, we could maybe say, okay, well, if this property is this, we can merge them together. Like, we basically have an object that we can manipulate rather than just a simple hash, which again, we could manipulate, but doesn't have its own API beyond that. And all form part of this Twitch domain or anything like that. So this is where I would want to end up, but I don't really want to do the work of defining that right now. Actually, let's leave it there and just comment it out. Yes, let's comment that out for now. And this, and we'll just return the parse response for now, because we're happy. So here we only have a hash. I'm just aware we've been running a bit long, so we're just going to wrap this up. But here, let's keep going. We're going to try and get something happening. So here we can do channels.videos.create, and I have no idea what we actually got back. I never actually bothered to check. So in here we have these from the YouTube one. Let's just do the lazy thing and copy them over. External ID. No idea what comes back. What comes back? URL. Right. Nope, we only got that back. Okay. We get back URL, broadcaster ID, broadcaster name, creator name, video ID, game ID, language, title. Right, title comes back. So we have clip title. View count created at thumbnail URL. Boom. That's what we want. So we want clip thumbnail URL. And nothing else that the other one had. I guess. Oh, we get the ID. I'm not quite sure what the... Oh, sorry. That was ID. Sorry. So we then don't need a description, I don't think. And we don't need a rich description. Wow, would this work? I'll be pretty excited if that works, because I've just made that up completely. So Twitch API new get clips. But what channel is it saving it to? We have to set this up. We're gonna create a new channel, I guess. Let's do that. So we're gonna go to our homepage. We're gonna call it Twitch test. We create the site. We don't have any way of asking it for the channel. This would be where we would ask it for the Twitch login name. Fine. Submit that right. Create a dummy. I always it's just something. Create a dummy password. Sign up. Great. Okay, so now it's made the request over. So this broadcaster is online. Great. So site's 54. So we now have channel.last. Let's just do that. And it's 36. So that's then we can just assign that to a variable called channel. Just going to pop this font up again. So channel equals channel.last. Okay, cool. So then we want to say Twitch service import clips. New. Channel. And then we're going to pass it the channel. There's no way this will work because I've already put typos everywhere. And then .call. And what we think this is going to do, potentially, is call our API code, go and get a bunch of the clips, and then populate them as videos within that channel. Absolutely no way this could work first time. Reload. I thought I had reloaded. Did I not? Oh, damn it. Okay, let's reload. Channel is channel.last. Wait, did it not? It didn't store that because I never actually executed it. Damn it, I got to that again. Okay, don't panic. This is very exciting. I genuinely thought I had done that. I genuinely thought I had done that. And then I've already forgotten what it was. Channel. Channel.call. Okay, cool. So that has not worked because it is still using the wrong casing. Okay, let's not make it so that we have to do the thing each time. Let's just put this as channel.last. And then we can just call one thing every time. Cool. So we could do reload. Right, now this is the worst type of debugging, which is oh, and this we can just hard code for now. Or did we hard code it in here? No, we can just hard code it for now. This normally you want to do your test-driven development where your test fails and do all that stuff. This is the type of coding where you just like roughly put a bunch of crap code in and just let your errors guide you there. So what was the? I think it was in Postman. It was the broadcaster ID. I think it's that channel that's showing up here. I think it's this channel here. Just gonna hard code that would come through from the channel again, but whatever. So reload. Interesting. Okay. Undefined method each for nil. Okay, so I'm not actually sure what I've got here. Let's go and find out. So what is clips at this point? Oh, it's nothing. Clips.client clips. So let's bring back nil, but that was bringing back something when we called it directly. So let's stitch out of that and move this to here. Oh, is that not? Can I not? Can't escape from view over next. Can I? Do I have to do step? Okay. I think I'm going to use data rather than data. Okay. Oh, I thought I checked that. I thought I'd done both earlier. Okay. Let's move this down here. Let's get out of that. Okay, cool. I thought I had spat that out earlier, so then that is... No, right. Okay, cool. Things happened. Oh my god, how exciting. Things are happening. We are creating videos and no, you were right, Finian. It was me. I genuinely earlier on I thought I had done parse response data as a string, parse response data as a symbol, and both of them had spat out the same thing. But I wonder if that was just it formatting on in the console. Right, this is making videos. This is super exciting. However, I think I might have the same problem here. I think I might be passing nil to all of these values right now. And also I didn't check if they were nested in any way. So I don't know if there's like data. Let's just run it again blindly and not check anything. That's the best way to code. Right, okay, more inserts. Yes. Okay, cool. Now we have videos. Right, let's channel.last.videos.delete all. Destroy all. Where was the delete SQL query for that? Oh, it doesn't matter. So let's do that again. Actually, let's take this stupid prize out because I'm annoying me having to run that each time. Now, I guess the view isn't going to work now because it needs the YouTube. Oops. It needs the YouTube URL. Boom. Okay, so loads of stuff in there, which means we can now go to... I think the site one just loops over the channels and shows. Oh my God. It has totally worked. Amazing. Well, we kind of thought it would work because we're not doing anything that's rocket science, but still very cool. Right. Let's wrap all this stuff up. So we've got so much going on when you look at a channel now. When we create the site, what we can do is at the moment we're asking for the YouTube channel ID. We could ask for a Twitch login or a user ID, whatever thing. And we talked earlier, you could ask for the login and then get the user ID by making that initial API request, or vice versa. One of them's a string, one of them's an integer. You could kind of do some work around that. Not really sure. Great. So we ask for that when we create the site. That associates that creates two channels. That would create two channels, one YouTube channel and one Twitch channel. I think, is that what that's doing on site setup? Details controller. What's actually happening here? Right. So again, at the moment, it's only doing one channel because we're only asking for one piece of information. So we ask for the YouTube channel ID here, and it's creating one channel.save. What we could do is say, well, what do you want to add? I want to add one YouTube channel. Great. Want to add one Twitch channel? Great. Blah, blah, blah. Keep adding them. And you could either do that via turbo frames as we were looking at and do it that way, or do it via turbo. Or you could just have like a little stimulus controller that built out all the params, and you click save and it posted them once, whatever you want. Then what we're doing here is populate channel and videos job. Now that again is only YouTube specific, but if the user had Twitch videos, you would want to again do this. You would want to say, you'd maybe have a job that a service that goes and checks all of the user's channels and refreshes them all. Great. That happens in the background and goes and populates them all. When we then view the site, what the site is doing, I think in the view, channel site.channels.each, channel.videos.each. So does this channel also have a YouTube thing? Because this might show us a mix then. We've got a YouTube thing. If I just keep scrolling up forever and ever and ever. Would have been quick to type it. Here we go. Right, so this channel that we added in a YouTube channel ID, but then we hard-coded a Twitch one and we just cheated because we haven't got that UI yet. But what we can do now, because we're looking at sites show, site, so that's sites 54, that's our ID. This is showing all of our Twitch videos because that's the only one that's loaded. If we also load our YouTube videos, boom, that then goes and populates those. Great, great, great. Look how many we've done. Oh my God, amazing. Now when I refresh this, all of the YouTube, all of the Twitch videos, then all the YouTube videos. These ones have got descriptions as well. So, and now what we can do, because they're all the same model under the hood, is we could do like order by created at or something like that. We could make those dates work. So you could have a mixture of Twitch and YouTube all on the same page. Amazing. Now, these are clips, remember, not the live stream because that's YouTube's modeling. And remember, these are two different channels because we just hard-coded this because I don't have any clips on my Twitch channel because frankly, I don't even know how to make them. Maybe that'll be my homework for this week. And then also what we have is this lazy loaded controller action that goes off to see if the person is live streaming now and adds that Twitch thing at the top. So there's a huge amount going on and we could add all of that really quickly. And one of them uses the YouTube gem. Or no, it's not the official gem, the YT gem, that's a third party. And what this one does at the moment is now uses our very hacky, hard-coded-y stuff for building a third-party integration from scratch and how we might go about that and all the stuff that we considered and all of those things. That is it. I'm wrapping it up because we got something done and we had some success, which didn't happen last week. Thank you, especially to Finian, who I know it's late where you are, so go get some sleep. I hope you're okay, by the way, over there. Thank you to everyone who more YouTube comments this week. Again, I will get around to doing the YouTube thumbnails at some point. Who knows when? And yeah, the goal for future streams, the goal is still to get this repo tidied up and actually like make some of the code real code and push it up to the GitHub repo, and then kind of bring this version of the app, now that we've kind of done what we said we were going to do, which is like you can create a user, you can create the channel and do all of that stuff and do what it is. I think we're going to start to wrap this app up. And then I've got a couple of ideas for the next stuff that we want to do. Again, let me know if there's anything specific that people are interested in. Justin messaged on Twitter, apologies because I don't really check that too often, about testing, which I was hoping we were going to get to today, but we haven't. But again, we could write tests for all of this stuff around like, did it make the HTTP request? We didn't get to pagination on this. Maybe that's what we could do next week. Maybe we could actually make this real code and do like the error handling, pagination, retries was in the YouTube one. We could take a look at how they're doing those, but specifically how we might test that, I guess. We could do that next week. That seems boring though. But if people are really interested, let me know. But I think normally I'm interested in like refreshing my memory on stuff or something like that. Yeah, and so that's it for this week. Have a wonderful week, everyone. I hope where you are is gradually coming out of lockdown like we are here. And I will see you all 10:30 a.m. next Sunday. Have a lovely week. Goodbye.